Welcome back to day 3 of our program. And we continue now with the AI in action stories, looking at business cases of AI adoption with a presentation by Krishna Gade, who's the founder and CEO of Fiddler. He'll be discussing revolutionizing fraud detection with explainable AI. Having held senior engineering leadership roles at Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, and Microsoft, Krishna has seen the side effects that bias has on AI and machine learning decision-making processes. And with Fiddler, his goal is to enable enterprises across the globe to solve this problem. Over to you, Krishna.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Krishna Gade, the CEO founder of Fiddler. We are an explainable AI platform in the Bay Area. We work on machine learning monitoring and model performance management. And I'm here to talk to you about how you can apply explainable AI in the space of fraud detection and how it's actually helping some customers across the board, financial services, e-commerce companies. Can you go to the next slide, please? To start with, if you think about like the problems that AI teams are facing today when it comes to deploying machine learning models and AI applications, there are four main things that are problematic. Number one is a lot of the models that developers are building are increasingly becoming complex. We have an availability of a plethora of tools from TensorFlow, PyTorch to a lot of automated machine learning frameworks that can produce very complex machine learning models today. But the problem is, for a human eye, they're a black box. They're not a piece of code. Anyone can open them up and understand what they're doing. And this is a huge problem for organizations who are being accountable today for disclosing how their algorithms work. The second problem that models are posing for organizations is that model performance shifts over time. For example, if I have a fraud model that I created today and it has like 99% accuracy, it's not guaranteed that that accuracy will maintain over time after it is running for like a month or two, because the model's behavior is highly dependent on data, and this is called model drift. And so it's a severe problem for teams to face and make sure that the models are up to date and stable and high performing all the time. The third problem is model bias. You have models being trained with a lot of variety of data. Let's say I'm trying to predict credit card fraud or transaction fraud, various different ways, and I'm trying to build models using a lot of unstructured data collected from various different sources that can carry bias. And we have seen recently many times when companies rolled out AI applications without proper bias testing, they hurt consumers, and introduce gender bias or ethnic bias into their applications. For example, what happened with Apple Card. Similarly, models need to be compliant, and so a lot of regulated industries need to make sure that models are compliant. If you go to the next slide. So the models being a black box, it's not just hurting the data scientists that are developing them, but it's actually becoming an organization problem. Like business users are consuming it. For example, if it's a fraud model, there could be a fraud analyst looking at the predictions of the fraud model, and they want to know how they trust the AI model that's detecting fraud or anti-money laundering. Or if it's a customer support people who might have to tell the customers of why their credit card was blocked, they need to be able to answer customer complaints. The IT teams that are responsible for managing these products need to know how to monitor and debug these models. And then the regulatory teams want to make sure that these models are being fair to different users. Next slide. So this is again a summary. With no visibility into these models, a lot of our customers are feeling the pain of spending too much time in debugging models, like spending a lot of energy and resources in troubleshooting them, and model performance can actually cause deterioration in terms of their business metrics over time as well. Next. So the right solution to think about this is a system that can explain, monitor, and analyze machine learning models. And so we call it a model performance management system. So if you're familiar with tools like business analytics tools like Tableau or DevOps tools like Datadog, we have built Fiddler with like a similar inspiration, but meant for the machine learning engineers and machine learning teams. So what people can do is they can deploy Fiddler today into their machine learning workflow and continuously monitor their models, whether they're fraud models or underwriting models or churn models, pricing models, and then set up alerts, look into how the models are working, explain them, and analyze them. Can you go to the next slide? So the way Fiddler fits in the ML workflow is it's a sidecar. It attaches itself to the models and illuminates the black box. So your data science teams can be producing these models using their current ML platforms, their current ML workflow, whatever that is. Wherever you're training the model using some static data, you're serving the model on some streaming data, and then you can attach Fiddler to these models in a pluggable manner in your production so that you can monitor them, you can analyze them, and you can explain them. Next slide, please. So let's look at how this applies in fraud detection case. So traditionally, when you're trying to build fraud detection systems, you look at historical transactions. You look at historical fraud. Let's say I'm trying to catch fraud in transactions. I have some good transactions and I have some fraudulent transactions. And then I use machine learning to create a fraud classifier. And this fraud classifier could be as complex as like a very complex, deep neural network, or as simple as a simple linear model. But the problem is it essentially takes the new transactions and it predicts which one is going to be a fraud transaction or which one is not going to be one. Next slide, please. So what a lot of work has been done so far is how to increase this model performance, right? How to increase my accuracy, how to increase my precision, how to increase my recall of these models. A lot of tools exist today, a lot of modeling frameworks exist today. Next slide, please. But the problem is that people also want human interpretability. They want to know, why is the model predicting that someone to be a fraud, a transaction to be a fraudulent transaction? So along with performance, what the increasing need that is emerging is this ability to unlock that black box, open it up and ask questions. Why was this classified as a fraudulent transaction? Why was this is an anti-money laundering type situation? So those are the things that are emerging within the market. The customers are asking for these type of questions. Next slide, please. So the way to think about explainable AI is it has to be baked throughout the life cycle of machine learning, because machine learning, unlike traditional software development, is a highly iterative workflow. Right? Developers don't stop after building one model; they keep iterating on the model and make it better. So the way to use Fiddler is you can actually use it during the training phase to understand bias in the data sets. Once you have trained a model, you can then validate the model, explain its performance, understand performance issues, create reports and dashboards, and then once it's ready to be deployed, you can compare the model performance across challenger champion models. You can observe performance drift and analyze root cause performance issues using Fiddler. And this works across different types of models, fraud models or churn models, underwriting models, whatever that is. Next slide, please. These are some of our customer case studies. We work with banking, e-commerce, ad tech, and gaming industries today across the board to create centralized model explainability and monitoring. Next slide, please. We are widely recognized as a leader in explainable AI space. We have done a series of explainable AI summits. We have published papers in top AI conferences. We've led workshops there as well. We were recently featured on many, promising lists like CB Insights, AI 100, and whatnot. Next slide, please. Yeah, so if you are interested to reach out to us, you can email us at info@fiddler.ai. We are here to help organizations build responsible AI, help you transform your existing AI by continuously monitoring and analyzing and explaining it so that you're building trustworthy AI for your customers. Thank you so much.
Krishna, thank you so much.